I'm Elena Vasquez, and 43 minutes ago I became the only person on Earth who knows that humanity has been under observation for exactly 127 years, that the Watchers aren't hiding in distant galaxies or parallel dimensions, and that every single one of us has been catalogued, measured, and archived in a facility that exists in a location so obvious we've been walking past it for over a century without ever seeing it. The file arrived in my university inbox at 3:47 a.m. on March 3, 2024. No sender name, no subject line, just an attachment titled omega_final_archive.enc and a single line of text. Your grandfather knew. He tried to tell them. They made him forget. You need to remember for both of you. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist at UC Berkeley specializing in memory formation and retrieval. I study how the brain encodes experience, how trauma affects recall, how memories can be suppressed or altered. I don't believe in conspiracy theories or government cover-ups or aliens watching us from secret bases. Or I didn't. Until I decrypted that file and found 127 years of surveillance data documenting every significant human achievement, every technological breakthrough, every cultural shift, recorded with methodical precision by something that's been cataloging our species since 1897 from a location that exists in 14 major cities simultaneously and has never once appeared on any map, blueprint, or municipal record despite being visited by an estimated 4.2 million people annually. Station Omega isn't hidden in the traditional sense. It doesn't exist underground or in restricted military zones or camouflaged in remote wilderness. It exists in plain sight, in libraries. Major metropolitan libraries built between 1895 and 1902 across 14 cities: New York, London, Paris, Berlin, Moscow, Tokyo, Beijing, Cairo, Mumbai, Sydney, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Toronto, and Cape Town. Not the entire libraries. Just specific rooms. Reading rooms. Always on the third floor. Always in the northeastern corner. Always featuring the same architectural details. Vaulted ceilings exactly 4.7 meters high, windows facing precisely 47 degrees northeast, shelving arranged in concentric circles around a central reading table constructed from wood that dendrochronological analysis would reveal doesn't match any known tree species. My grandfather, Dr. Miguel Vasquez, was a librarian at the New York Public Library from 1963 to 1987. He spent 24 years cataloging rare manuscripts in the Stephen Schwarzman Building. 24 years working 3 floors above the reading room that serves as Station Omega's primary North American observation post. He died in 2003. Alzheimer's, according to the medical records. Severe cognitive decline beginning in 1988. Progressive memory loss. Confusion. Inability to recognize family members by 1995. I was 12 when he died. I remember visiting him in the care facility. Remember him grabbing my wrist with surprising strength and whispering the same phrase over and over. The third floor remembers everything. The third floor never forgets. They're always writing, Elena. Always writing what we do. I thought it was dementia. Random neural misfiring. The tragic dissolution of a brilliant mind. I thought that for 21 years. Until I decrypted the file and found his name. Dr. Miguel Vasquez. Listed among 17 individuals across 14 cities who discovered Station Omega between 1963 and 1987. Discovered and were subsequently processed. Memory suppression. Induced cognitive decline. Systematic erasure of all recollection related to the observation posts. My grandfather didn't have Alzheimer's. He had his memories surgically removed, deleted, overwritten with false neurological deterioration to explain the gaps. To explain why a man with perfect recall suddenly couldn't remember his own daughter's name. The encrypted file contained 847 gigabytes of data. Surveillance logs. Architectural specifications. Personnel records dating back to 1897. Photographic evidence. Video recordings. And a document titled Omega Protocol. comprehensive species monitoring and archival procedures that explained everything. Station Omega was established in 1897 as part of a global observation network. The document doesn't specify who established it, doesn't identify the observers, doesn't explain their purpose beyond systematic documentation of human development. What it does specify, in exhaustive detail, is the methodology. Every Station Omega reading room is equipped with technology that shouldn't exist. Can't exist according to our current understanding of physics. Passive monitoring systems embedded in the architectural structure itself. The wood, the stone, the very molecular composition of the building materials containing microscopic sensors that record everything that happens within a 3-kilometer radius. Not just visual and audio. Neurological. The stations map brain activity, record thought patterns, archive the cognitive signatures of every person who enters the monitoring radius. 4.2 million people visit these 14 libraries annually. 4.2 million people having their neural patterns recorded, analyzed, and transmitted to wherever the data ultimately goes. The file contains sample recordings. I watched them. Thermal imaging showing heat signatures of library visitors. But overlaid on the thermal data were neural maps. Real-time visualization of brain activity. Thought patterns rendered as geometric structures. Emotional states displayed as color gradients. Memory formation visible as crystalline architectures building and dissolving in the hippocampus. This isn't technology we possess. Isn't capability we've achieved. This is observation at a level of sophistication that suggests the watchers understand human neurology better than we understand it ourselves. That I started investigating 3 days ago. Started visiting libraries. Started looking for the reading rooms. The New York Public Library was first. I walked through the main entrance on 5th Avenue, took the stairs to the 3rd floor, found the northeastern corner, found the reading room, vaulted ceiling, windows angled northeast. Concentric shelving, central table, everything matching the architectural specifications in the file. The room was occupied. 7 people. Reading, working on laptops, taking notes. Normal library activity. Normal except for one detail. Nobody was making eye contact. Nobody was acknowledging each other's presence. 7 people sharing a space designed for collaborative study, and not one of them showed any awareness of the others. I sat at the central table, opened a book at random, pretended to read while watching the other occupants peripherally. 30 minutes passed. Not one person looked up. Not one person shifted position or checked their phone or exhibited any normal human fidgeting or social awareness. They were reading. Just reading. With focus so intense it suggested something beyond normal concentration. Suggested compulsion. Suggested their attention was being held by something other than intellectual interest. I tried to leave after 40 minutes. Stood up. Walked toward the exit. And couldn't find it. The door I'd entered through wasn't visible. The room's geometry had shifted. The concentric shelving creating a maze. A pattern that looped back on itself. I walked for 7 minutes, kept ending up at the central table, kept seeing the same 7 people in the same positions reading the same pages. Finally I stopped moving, stood still, closed my eyes, counted to 60. When I opened them the door was visible, 3 meters away, exactly where it should have been. I left, fast, down the stairs, out of the building, into Manhattan's crowds and noise and blessed chaos. But something followed me out. A pressure. A sensation of being observed that intensified over the next 6 hours until I was certain someone was watching. Not following. Watching. From a fixed position. From above. I looked up repeatedly. Scanned buildings. Searched for surveillance cameras or drones or any visible explanation. Found nothing. The sensation persisted for 18 hours. Then stopped. Completely. Like a switch being thrown. Like whatever had been monitoring me decided I wasn't interesting anymore, or had collected sufficient data, or had simply moved on to the next subject. That I checked the other cities. Sent messages to colleagues. Asked casual questions about 3rd floor reading rooms in major libraries. Received responses ranging from confused to concerned. Most people didn't know what I was talking about. Said their library didn't have a third-floor reading room matching my description. But 3 responses were different. Dr. James Morrison in London, Dr. Yuki Tanaka in Tokyo, Dr. Anya Volkov in Moscow. All 3 confirmed the rooms existed. All 3 mentioned experiencing the same disorientation when trying to leave. All 3 described the sensation of being watched that followed them for hours afterward. And all 3 asked me not to contact them again. Said they didn't want to discuss it further. Said some things were better left unexamined. The encrypted file contained personnel records for Station Omega staff, individuals employed to maintain the observation posts, to ensure the technology remains functional, to manage the data collection, names, photographs, employment histories. I recognized some of them: librarians, archivists, people who've worked at these institutions for decades. Normal careers, normal lives. Except for one detail visible in every photograph: their eyes. Pale, faded, the same gray discoloration I'd seen in people affected by dimensional exposure in other cases. In other incidents where humans encountered technology or entities from elsewhere. That specific ocular degradation that suggests someone has been looking at things human eyes weren't designed to perceive. That I found my grandfather's personnel file. His photograph from 1963. Eyes normal, brown, healthy. Another photograph from 1976. Eyes slightly faded, grayish-brown. Photograph from 1983. Completely gray. By 1987 he'd been removed from his position. Reassigned to general cataloging. Away from the 3rd floor. Away from the reading room. Away from whatever exposure was degrading his vision and eroding his memories. The file included medical records, neurological scans, documented evidence of systematic brain tissue modification, hippocampal damage, prefrontal cortex alterations, deliberate surgical intervention designed to erase specific memories while preserving general cognitive function. They tried to be precise, tried to remove only his knowledge of Station Omega. But memory doesn't work that way. You can't delete specific files without affecting adjacent data. My grandfather's memories of his work became corrupted. His recall of his career degraded. Eventually his entire autobiographical memory collapsed because they'd removed too many foundational elements. Too many connecting nodes. They destroyed his mind trying to protect their secret. The file contained communications between Station Omega and the Central Archive. Messages describing observation priorities. Research directives. Instructions for data collection. One communication from 2019 specified, increased monitoring of neural development in subjects aged 12 to 18. Recent cognitive acceleration in this demographic suggests approaching threshold. Recommend enhanced surveillance and immediate archival of breakthrough thought patterns. Another from 2021, human technological advancement proceeding faster than projected. Quantum computing development 3 years ahead of estimated timeline. Adjust observation protocols. Prioritize documentation of all research in computational consciousness and artificial general intelligence. They're not just watching us. They're anticipating us. Predicting our development. Monitoring our progress towards some threshold they've defined. Some capability they're waiting for us to achieve. Or some boundary they're ensuring we don't cross. The file referenced previous observation networks. Facilities that predated Station Omega. Monitoring posts established in ancient Egypt. Babylonian libraries. Roman archives. Greek academies. The Alexandria Library wasn't just destroyed by fire. It was decommissioned, shut down, erased because the observation period had ended. Because whatever was being monitored had been documented. Because the watchers had collected sufficient data and moved the operation to new locations. New libraries. New reading rooms built at the end of the 19th century when human technological development accelerated. When we discovered electricity. When we started building the infrastructure that would eventually lead to global communication networks. Computers. Internet. The technological substrate that makes modern surveillance trivial, except Station Omega doesn't use our technology. Doesn't tap our networks. doesn't need digital infrastructure because the monitoring is embedded in physical space. In architecture. In materials that contain sensors we can't detect with any equipment we currently possess. I tested this. Brought electromagnetic field detectors into the New York reading room. Radiation monitors. Thermal cameras. Every sensor showed normal readings. No unusual electromagnetic activity. No radiation. No thermal anomalies. The room appeared completely mundane from a technical perspective. But I could feel it. That pressure. That sense of being observed. That subtle wrongness suggesting the space wasn't entirely what it appeared to be. I found architectural records for the 14 libraries. Construction documents from 1895 to 1902. All 14 buildings were designed by different architects. Different firms. Different countries. But the third-floor reading rooms are identical. Same dimensions. Same orientation. Same materials. Same vaulted ceiling height of exactly 4.7 meters. The specifications were too precise to be coincidence. Too consistent across 14 separate construction projects on 5 continents. Someone provided blueprints. Someone ensured these rooms were built to exact requirements. Someone coordinated global architectural construction to create a monitoring network that's been operational for 127 years. The file contained financial records. Money trails. The construction projects were funded through shell corporations. Philanthropic foundations that appeared in 1894, funded library construction between 1895 to 1902, then dissolved in 1903. No ongoing operations. No subsequent projects. Just single-purpose entities created to build 14 reading rooms then disappear. I traced the funding sources back through historical banking records. Found connections to families. Old money. European aristocracy. American industrial magnates. Names that appear in history books. Rockefeller. Carnegie. Rothschild. Vanderbilt. All contributed to library construction. All ensured specific architectural requirements were met. All died without ever publicly acknowledging their involvement in anything beyond standard philanthropy, but private records tell different stories. Letters. Diaries. Documents that surfaced decades later in estate sales and university archives. References to the Observation Compact. Mentions of ensuring proper documentation. Cryptic acknowledgments of responsibilities to the record keepers. These people knew they were funding surveillance infrastructure, knew they were building monitoring posts. And they did it anyway. Did it willingly. Did it in exchange for what? The file doesn't specify. Doesn't explain what the watchers offered these families. What they promised. What they threatened. Just confirms that humans participated. That we built our own surveillance network. That we were complicit in establishing the system that's been documenting everything we've done for over a century. That I contacted Dr. Morrison in London yesterday. Used encrypted communication, temporary email, VPN routing, every precaution I could implement. He responded within an hour. Don't investigate further. Don't visit more libraries. Don't try to access the reading rooms. I made that mistake in 2019. Spent 3 days trying to understand the technology, trying to measure the monitoring systems. The 4th day I woke up with gaps. Hours missing. Memories of my investigation gone. Only fragments remaining. Just enough to know something was taken. Just enough to be terrified of what else they might remove if I continued. Stop now while you still remember why you started. I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because the file contained one more document. A message dated March 1st, 2024. 2 days before I received the encrypted email. The message read, archive completion approaching 99.2%. Human development has reached sufficient complexity for final documentation phase. Recommend initiating closure protocols within 18 months. Dismantle observation network. Transfer complete dataset to permanent archive. Terminate monitoring operations. Humanity has been adequately documented. They're shutting down. Station Omega is ending. Not because we discovered it. Not because the surveillance became compromised. Because they've collected enough data. Because 127 years of documentation is sufficient. Because whatever they were studying, whatever development they were monitoring, has reached completion. The observation period is over. The final archive is being compiled. And within 18 months, the reading rooms will be decommissioned, the technology removed, the infrastructure dismantled, and every trace of Station Omega will disappear like it never existed, except will still be documented, still be archived. Everything we've thought, everything we've achieved, everything we've become over 127 years of intensive monitoring. All of it preserved somewhere. All of it accessible to whoever was watching, to whatever was watching. The file never specifies, never identifies the observers, never explains who established the network or why they needed such comprehensive documentation of human development. Just confirms they exist, confirms they've been watching, confirms they're almost done. That I visited my grandfather's grave this morning, Forest Lawn Cemetery in Los Angeles. Died December 2003. Buried with military honors because he'd served in Korea before becoming a librarian. I stood at his headstone and tried to imagine what he'd discovered. What he'd seen in that reading room that was important enough to erase. Dangerous enough to destroy his mind rather than let him remember. He spent 24 years 3 floors above Station Omega's North American post. 24 years in proximity to whatever technology powers the observation network. Whatever architecture enables the monitoring. He must have noticed something, must have investigated, must have gotten close enough to the truth that they decided he was a threat. That his knowledge was too dangerous to allow him to retain. The encrypted file came from somewhere. Someone sent it. Someone with access to Station Omega's archive. Someone who wanted this information exposed. Someone who knew my grandfather had discovered the truth and thought I deserved to know what was taken from him. The email address that sent the file has been deleted. The server that hosted it is no longer accessible. I can't trace the source. Can't identify who sent it. Can't thank them or ask questions or understand their motivation. All I have is the data. 847 gigabytes of evidence that we've been observed for 127 years by something that understands us better than we understand ourselves. That I'm uploading this file to every distributed network I can access. Every blockchain, every peer-to-peer system, every anonymous archive, because in 18 months the reading rooms close. The technology gets removed, the evidence disappears. And nobody will believe this happened. Nobody will believe we were monitored so comprehensively. Nobody will believe 14 libraries served as surveillance posts for over a century. The story will sound insane, paranoid. The ravings of someone who needs psychiatric help. Just like my grandfather sounded in his final years when he tried to tell people about the 3rd floor. When he tried to explain that the library was remembering everything. When he begged people to understand that they were always writing, always documenting, always watching. I'm Elena Vasquez, cognitive neuroscientist, granddaughter of Dr. Miguel Vasquez, who discovered Station Omega in 1976 and spent the last 17 years of his life trying to remember what they made him forget. This is the documentation. This is the evidence. This is the proof that we've never been alone, never been unwatched, never been undocumented. The observers have been here since 1897, have been recording everything, and in 18 months they're leaving, taking their complete archive with them. Taking 127 years of human thought, human achievement, human development, all of it preserved, all of it studied, all of it understood by something we've never seen, something that's been 3 floors above us, 3 floors away, 3 floors too close for the entire modern era. The file ends with one final entry. A note dated March 2, 2024. Archive recipient has been notified. Transfer preparation commencing. Humanity has been fascinating. Recommend preservation of complete dataset for future reference. Species shows potential for eventual dimensional transition. Continue passive observation post-archive if transition occurs within projected timeframe. They're not done with us. The active observation is ending, but they'll keep watching, passively, waiting to see if we achieve whatever transition they're predicting. whatever threshold they believe we're approaching, whatever capability they think we might develop. We're not just documented, we're expected to become something else. Something worthy of continued observation, something that justifies 127 years of comprehensive surveillance that I don't know what happens next. Don't know if exposing this accomplishes anything. Don't know if the watchers care that one person discovered their archive. They've been operating openly for 127 years. 14 reading rooms in 14 major cities visited by millions of people annually. If they wanted to remain hidden, they could have. If they feared discovery, they would have taken better precautions. But they didn't, because they don't fear us. Don't fear exposure. Don't fear consequences. Because they're leaving anyway. Because the observation period is over. Because we've been adequately documented, the reading rooms are still there. Still operational. Still monitoring everyone within 3 kilometers. Visit the New York Public Library. Go to the 3rd floor. Find the northeastern corner. Enter the reading room with the vaulted ceiling and concentric shelving. Sit at the central table. Try to leave. See if you can find the exit. See if you feel the pressure. See if something starts watching you. See if your eyes start fading to gray. My grandfather spent 24 years in that building. 24 years being documented, being observed, being studied, until he discovered the truth, until he learned too much. Until they erased him rather than let him remember. I'm 21 years into my career studying how memories form, how trauma affects recall, how the brain encodes and retrieves experience. Everything I know about memory tells me what they did to my grandfather should be impossible. You can't surgically remove specific memories without destroying cognitive function. You can't selectively erase information without causing catastrophic neurological damage. But they did it. Did it to 17 people across 14 cities. Did it with precision that suggests they understand human neurology at a level we haven't achieved. At a level that makes me wonder if 127 years of observation included experimentation, included testing, included direct intervention in human neural development to see what was possible, to see what could be modified, to see how malleable human consciousness really is. The file contained neurological data from my grandfather's procedures. Brain scans showing before and after, hippocampal tissue clearly modified, synaptic pathways rerouted, neural networks rewritten. The precision is beautiful, terrifying, impossible. This isn't crude lobotomy or experimental surgery. This is editing, rewriting human memory like software. Like consciousness is code that can be debugged, optimized, reprogrammed. They didn't just erase my grandfather's memories of Station Omega. They restructured his entire autobiographical narrative to account for the gaps. Created false memories of gradual decline. Implanted experiences of confusion and forgetfulness that felt authentic because they were integrated at the neurological level. My grandfather didn't just forget what he discovered. He remembered forgetting. Remembered decline. Remembered dementia. All of it artificial. All of it implanted. All of it designed to explain why a brilliant librarian with perfect recall suddenly couldn't recognize his own granddaughter. I'm experiencing the same watching sensation again. Started 3 hours ago. Stronger than before. More focused. Like something is paying very close attention. Like my investigation crossed a threshold. Like I've become interesting enough to warrant enhanced surveillance. I can feel it when I close my eyes. Pressure behind my forehead. Not painful. Just present. Just there. Like something is reading, scanning, documenting what I'm thinking right now as I write this. I tried to leave my apartment 2 hours ago. The door was locked. From the inside. With no lock. Just wouldn't open. 40 minutes later it opened normally. Like nothing had happened. Like the geometry of my own apartment had temporarily shifted to keep me contained. To keep me from leaving while something finished its observation. While something completed its documentation of how I responded to discovering the archive. How I processed the information. How my neural patterns changed as I understood the implications that they're studying me the way they studied my grandfather. Recording my cognitive response to learning about Station Omega. documenting how discovery affects memory formation, how paranoia modifies thought patterns, how fear restructures neural architecture. I'm not just exposing the surveillance. I'm participating in it, adding my data to the archive, contributing one more documented response to the 127 years of observation. One more case study in how humans react when they learn they've been watched, when they understand the scope of the documentation, when they realize they were never private, never unwatched, never undocumented. The file contains statistics, numbers. Over 127 years of operation, Station Omega has documented 847 million individual neural patterns, archived 4.3 billion hours of cognitive activity, mapped the thought processes of everyone who entered the 3-kilometer monitoring radius around any of the 14 reading rooms, political leaders, scientists, artists, engineers, philosophers, every significant thinker who visited New York or London or Paris or any of the other 13 cities. All of them documented, all of them studied, all of them contributing to whatever research the observers are conducting, whatever data they need, whatever understanding they're building about human consciousness and development and potential. That we're not just being watched, we're being understood, at a level of detail that should be impossible. At a depth of analysis that suggests the observers have been building a complete model of human cognition, a perfect simulation, a comprehensive map of how we think, how we create, how we solve problems, how we develop technology, how we form societies, how we evolve culturally. Everything documented, everything archived, everything preserved for purposes we can't comprehend because we don't know who's watching, don't know why they're watching, don't know what they plan to do with 127 years of comprehensive human documentation. The archive completion percentage was 99.2% as of March 1st. That means 0.8% remains. Approximately 7 months of observation at current documentation rates. 7 months until closure protocols begin. 7 months until the reading rooms are dismantled. 7 months until every trace of Station Omega disappears and the only evidence will be this file, this testimony, this documentation of the documentation. I'm uploading it everywhere, encrypting it, distributing it, hiding it in places that can't be easily erased. Because someone needs to know, someone needs to remember, someone needs to understand that the observers were here, that they watched us, that they recorded everything, that they're leaving with perfect knowledge of what we are, what we've become, what we might become. Why grandfather tried to tell people, tried to expose Station Omega, tried to warn humanity that we were being observed. They erased him, destroyed his mind, turned his final years into confused suffering, but he left fragments, little pieces of truth scattered through his dementia. Phrases he repeated. The third floor remembers everything. They're always writing. The library never forgets. He was trying to tell us. Trying to communicate despite the neurological damage. Despite the erasure. Despite having his memories systematically deleted. Some part of him remembered. Some fragment survived the procedure. And he spent 17 years trying to share it. Trying to warn us. Trying to make us understand. I'm his granddaughter. I study memory. I understand how recall works. I understand that his fragmented warnings weren't random neural misfiring. They were the remnants of what he discovered, the pieces they couldn't completely erase, the truth trying to surface despite systematic suppression. He knew about Station Omega, knew about the observers, knew about the 127 years of documentation, and they destroyed him for it, made him forget, made him suffer, made his final years a horror of confusion and loss. But he tried. God, he tried so hard to tell us, this is for him. This documentation, this exposure, this testimony. For Dr. Miguel Vasquez, who spent 24 years 3 floors above Station Omega and discovered the truth and paid for it with his mind. For the 17 other people across 14 cities who made the same discovery and suffered the same erasure. For everyone who visited those reading rooms and had their thoughts recorded without consent, without knowledge, without ever understanding that the library was doing more than lending books. that it was documenting consciousness, that it was building the most comprehensive archive of human cognitive activity ever compiled. They're watching us write this. Right now, recording my neural patterns as I type, documenting my thought process, adding this moment to the archive, to the 99.2% completion, to the final 7 months of observation before closure. I can feel them, feel the pressure, feel the attention. They know I know. And they're interested in how I respond, how I process, how I document the documentation. Meta-observation, watching me watch them watching us. Layers of surveillance, layers of study, layers of analysis extending back 127 years and forward into whatever future they're archiving us for. The reading rooms are still open, still operating, still monitoring. Visit them, experience the observation, feel the pressure, see if you can leave, see if something follows you home, see if you start noticing the watching, see if your eyes start fading to gray, see if your memories start developing gaps, see if you become interesting enough for enhanced surveillance, interesting enough for intervention, interesting enough to erase. Or don't visit, stay away, avoid the libraries, avoid the 3rd floor, avoid the northeastern corners, avoid the reading rooms with vaulted ceilings and concentric shelving, stay outside the 3-kilometer radius, stay undocumented, stay private, for 7 more months. Until closure. Until the archive is complete. Until the observers leave and take everything they've learned about us with them. Until we're alone again, unwatched again, undocumented again, if we ever were. If there weren't previous networks, previous monitoring, previous observation periods stretching back through human history. Alexandria, Babylon, Egypt, Greece, Rome, libraries, archives, places where knowledge was gathered, where thinkers congregated, where the best human minds gathered to study and create and develop. Perfect locations for observation, perfect locations for documentation, perfect locations to watch humanity develop, to record our progress, to archive our achievements, to study what we might become. We've never been alone, never been private, never been unwatched. The observers have always been there, 3 floors above, 3 floors away, 3 floors too close, documenting everything, recording everything, understanding everything, and now they're almost done, almost complete, almost ready to leave, 99.2% archived, 0.8% remaining, 7 months until closure, 7 months until the reading rooms go dark, 7 months until Station Omega becomes Station Omega was. Past tense, historical, forgotten, except for this file, this testimony, this documentation. Elena Vasquez, cognitive neuroscientist, granddaughter of the forgotten, daughter of the observed, subject of the archive, recording what was done, what is being done, what will be done, before it's too late, before closure, before forgetting. The 3rd floor remembers everything. The 3rd floor never forgets. They're always writing, always documenting, always watching, for 7 more months. Until completion, until transfer, until we're archived, until we're studied, until we're understood, until we're known, completely, perfectly, forever. Archive status, 99.3%, closure timeline, 6.8 months, subject Vasquez, documented, neural pattern, archived, observation, complete, they're always writing, the 3rd floor never forgets, 7 months remaining.